Hello, Bravo bosses, and welcome to the Bravo Investigator podcast with me, your host, Dana. Today we are talking about Southern Charm and the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. So happy Thursday, everyone. I hope everyone's had a great week. Mine has obviously been shitty because I was fired on Monday. And I have been really struggling to get through it, to be honest. Like Monday, I was still just trying to let what happened sink in. It didn't really, seem real on Monday. And then by Tuesday, I was kind of like, no, I'm excited. This is okay because I have all of these really great work ideas and all these ideas about what I want to do with my future. And this is going to be great. And then Wednesday and then today, I was just having a nervous breakdown. And I've been in bed like all day, basically the past 2 days, just because I'm just like, what am I going to do? Like my biggest fear, honestly, is becoming homeless. I don't have any help. I don't have any support. And I'm just absolutely fucking terrified. And I know I told you guys that I wouldn't complain at the beginning of these episodes, but like at the same time, I don't even know how to do these episodes without starting a little bit with some honesty, because if I just came in here all bright and sunny and happy, it wouldn't be realistic because I'm going through like the worst thing I've ever been through in my life right now. And while I hope this podcast helps me get through it, I just have to be honest with you guys about like what I'm going through right now. Another reason today sucked is because I actually already recorded this episode, okay? I recorded a 45-minute episode and it came out with no sound. So I apologize for the sound quality right now. I had to use a different mic, so I know there might be a little bit more of like an echoey sound, and I apologize for that. I'll figure it out later. I'm just having an issue with my mic right now. The last thing I need is to buy a new mic, so I hope that that's not the situation. But I'm just re-recording this episode now for the second time today. So hello, everyone. Happy to have you here. One thing, though, I did want to say going into this period of unemployment is that I might as well make this a 5-day-a-week show, because why not? What else am I doing, right? So Mondays are going to be reality roundup like normal. Tuesdays, I think I'm going to do 90 Day Fiance because I think there's a new season coming back on Sunday. Then Wednesdays, I'm going to do Vanderpump Rules and Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. Thursdays, I'm going to do Southern Charm. Fridays, I'll do Beverly Hills. And then on Saturdays, I will do my extra bonus Patreon episode that I do every week for Patreon. So I think that's going to be the schedule. Obviously, today's a little bit different and this week is a little bit different, but because Beverly Hills comes back tonight, which is so exciting, there's lots of great content in the sphere for us to talk about, right? So I'm excited about having a 5-day-a-week show. I think that's going to be great. And I have also started my own YouTube channel, guys, as I mentioned. So it's youtube.com/@the-Bravo-Investigator. I've linked it in the show notes. I've linked it everywhere. So make sure to subscribe. And I think I'll do what I did sort of before in terms of video episodes. So Monday's reality roundups will always be video as per usual. If I ever do an interview with someone, those will be video. And then on a day like today or a day like yesterday where I feel like doing video, I'll do video. But some episodes will be audio only, and I will still upload those to YouTube so you can watch like the blank screen. So that's what's going on here. Also, I had a really exciting call today with Threads. Yes, Threads, like Instagram and Threads and Meta Threads. And I can't tell you guys what it's about. Super top secret. It's not a paid opportunity, but that's fine. It was a really great networking opportunity. I got to be in rooms with people that, I was just so excited to be in rooms with, quite frankly. And it was really great for networking. And Amaya Papaya from season 7 of Love Island showed up on the call and did a little bit of Q&A, which was so fucking cool. So I'm going to post a little bit about that on Instagram later, but I just wanted to share that with you guys because it was just so cool. And then the Patreon. I just want to remind you guys about the Patreon. It's an extra $5 a month for 4 episodes a month. If you can try to help me out now that I'm unemployed, I'm really trying to plug that Patreon, guys. So I'll be doing an extra episode every month for $5 a month. Join us over there on patreon.com/the-Bravo Investigator podcast. All right, well, let's get into our material today for the second fucking time. Southern Charm. All right. So I really have been enjoying the season so far. We're 2 episodes in. Even though this show has typically been about like the 3 main guys, Austen, Craig, and Shep, it's nice that our B-level characters are getting a lot more screen time because I like watching Charlie and Salley and Venita and Rodrigo, right? I think they're honestly more fun than the main 3 guys. So we start with a scene of Charlie talking to her mom on the phone, and she and her mom are best friends. She says that she was raised in a really small town in the middle of nowhere, and that's why she was just like really tight with her community. Her mom asks her if she was interesting at the singles party because she tells her mom about the singles party. And her mom was like, well, were you interesting? Because sometimes you're not interesting. And I was just like, holy shit, what kind of mom says sometimes you're not interesting? Now, I don't know their relationship and I don't know them at all. And so maybe she was joking, right? It just sort of reminded me of Stassi Schroeder's mom, Dana, not me, Dana, but Dana Schroeder, when she said to Stassi and Bo, like, he's up here and you're down here, right? It sort of reminded me of that. But this could be just like jokes, just how they are. So Charlie was in pageants since she was little and she loved it. She did cotillion. She was a debutante. She participated in Miss South Carolina. So she's done that whole damn thing, right? And she tells her mom that Salley was upset that she was flirting with Craig, but she didn't feel like she was talking to him more than anyone else. Now, you know, with the whole Craig and Salley thing, I'm not sure, sorry, the Charlie and Salley thing, I'm not sure, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not sure if Salley fully communicated to Charlie that she was interested in Craig. Because if she didn't and was just, you know, because she's out there flirting with Austen, she's flirting with Craig, she's flirting with everybody. So maybe Charlie didn't really know it was like Salley has her eyes on Craig and that's the situation. But regardless, I mean, like, they are friends and that is a girl's girl thing. And I think this whole season is going to become about like what it means to be a girl's girl and what girl code actually means. But I do think in this situation, if Salley expressed to Charlie that she was interested in Craig first and that she wanted to pursue that, then yeah, that would be not cool of Charlie to then, you know, go after him. So then Venita goes over to Sally's and they talk about Molly. And they talk about how apparently Molly doesn't like Salley very much. Molly apparently complained to Venita that Salley calls dibs on every guy in Charleston, and she didn't see why Salley didn't think it was a problem that she told Audrey that she finds Austen attractive. And Sally's like, okay, well, first of all, I didn't say that. Then they flash to what she actually said, which wasn't to Audrey, it was to like a bunch of other people where she's like, the minute Audrey and Austen break up, I'm going right for it. Okay, so she did say that. But the whole thing about her calling dibs on every guy, I mean, why does this make Molly mad, though, in particular? Is it because Molly is interested in some of these guys? I mean, this is the only reality show I've seen where, unless it's a dating reality show, where they treat it like a dating reality show in a sense, right? Like when Charlie first comes in, they're like, okay, who does Charlie have her eyes on? Because Charleston and South Carolina, like this whole thing is about like marrying young and having a family and doing the damn thing, right? So like, it seems like every storyline or the show itself is really just about partnering up and finding partnerships and finding the right partnership. And so like that's just what everybody's goal seems to be on this show when they come onto it. So then Salley is annoyed that Molly's talking shit behind her back because she actually thought that they were besties. So that's actually not cool then. I don't know. I did see a lot of Molly and Salley posting pictures together last summer. So that isn't really cool of her to talk shit behind her back and then not say it to her face as well. Because it does seem like Molly is particularly pissed about the situation, but then is apparently texting Salley like everything is all good. And that's not cool. So Venita confronts Salley about the Craig thing and whether she's into him. And she's like, I don't know. I think he's hot. I like hanging out with him. And Venita feels like it's disrespectful to their friendship because Venita has beef with Craig. Okay, look, I've seen a lot of discourse about this online, and I'm just going to say what I feel like I said last week, which is like, you know, if Venita had dated Craig, then obviously Craig is off limits. Venita just has beef with Craig, but it's beef that doesn't really pertain to her. It's really like third party beef in a sense. Like Craig didn't do anything to her. Paige didn't do anything to her. She just like took a side in a breakup. And, you know, it to me doesn't feel that serious to the point where like the beef between Venita and Craig is so strong where he's done something to Venita in particular where Salley can't date him, right? Then again, it's obviously very uncomfortable to have your best friend date someone that you don't like and that person is around all the time. So I do understand it from that perspective, but I just don't feel like it's disrespectful. I don't. I'm sorry. Just in this one situation, because I don't really feel like Venita's beef with Craig is that serious. That's kind of my mentality on it. Then we have this scene with Austen and Madison going for crabs. LOL. Now, I love their friendship. I think it is so adorable, and we'll get to Watch What Happens Live, but I loved watching them on Watch What Happens Live. They were grabbing each other's arms and being so cute together, and Madison fully said, like, Brett has no issue with it. They're totally cool, and even though it looks awkward when him and Austen talk on screen, they're actually friends, and they're totally fine. So I just love their friendship, and I love that they go for lunch together. So they talk about Audrey, and Austen says that he loves when she's here, but when she's gone, he questions whether this is forever. And then he second guesses whether he should even be second guessing. Like the fact that he's second guessing that. And Madison says, like, you have to be able to say that you can't live without this person. That has to be the mentality. Otherwise, like, give her time back, basically. And Austen tells the camera that he doesn't know how someone can be sure about forever. And I'm just so disappointed in this, to be honest. Like, when I saw Austen and Audrey last season, I thought they were so cute together. I thought he was so into her. I thought it was adorable. He was like goo goo gog over her. And I'm like, well, maybe this is it. Maybe there is someone for everyone. But maybe there isn't, right? And maybe for Shep and Austen, maybe they're just not the marrying kind. And that's fine. I'm not the marrying kind. There's nothing wrong with that. So I just think it's the nature of where they live that sort of propels them to keep trying to date, I guess. But I think what would be more fair to these women if they just stopped, right? Stop trying, because I think you need to accept your losses at this point, that this is not something that you want. I feel like every season we watch these guys go through this whole thing where they're dating someone, they talk about marriage, they talk about babies, they're all into it. And then a few months or a year later, they're like, no, this is never what I wanted in the first place, right? So it just feels like we're dealing with the same old song and dance over and over again. And I just sort of wish Austen and Shep would have a little more introspection into the fact that they maybe aren't the marrying kind. So then Patricia ends up having this FaceTime with Whitney. And I thought it was really funny, just her trying to get it set up because she doesn't know how. She's having her butler help her. He's bringing down her cell phone like on a silver platter with snacks. It's so funny. And she's FaceTiming with Whitney about the death of her dog, Chauncey. So you remember Chauncey is the pug. And she's had that pug for a really long time. He had a neurological issue and it was really sad, so he died. And they talk about giving him a proper burial. And that makes a lot of sense for this show because we did have a dog wedding. So why not a dog funeral? So I do expect to be seeing a dog funeral on this show coming up. So then we have this scene where Craig goes to Charlie's art gallery. He says that he really wants a big picture of a tiger or a polar bear. And I'm just like, Craig, what is this? Now listen, he goes there because he's trying to play the long game with her. He says to the camera, like, I've never been in a relationship where we didn't start off being friends first, right? So that's what I'm trying to do here, get to know her. And even though we'll talk about Watch What Happens Live later, Madison was asked by Andy, like, did you think it was cute or cringe that Austen went to her, or sorry, that Craig went to her work? And she thought it was so cute. And so do I, right? Like, it shows an interest. But I also love that he went there it almost seemed like he went there to flirt, because his idea of what he actually wanted in a painting is so ridiculous. It sort of reminds me of Tom Sandoval in the picture of the tiger that he brought to the File Files, right? Like, you want a picture of a tiger. Like, it just sounds ridiculous and like he's not there for a real purpose, which makes it all that much more romantic if you think about it. So then Austen decides to get a cat, and he enlists Craig's help to get supplies for the cat. Now, Craig says that getting a cat is a death sentence in a relationship, okay? Because Naomi had that cat. Remember that cat? I forget the name of that cat, but she had the cutest cat. And then he had this girlfriend, Natalie, during COVID. She got a cat, and then they broke up. And then Paige got that cat, Daphne, and then they broke up. So he says that he keeps thinking it's going to become a family of 3, and then it becomes a family of 2. So he's like, oh God. But, Austen is still wanting to do it. I think Rodrigo's cat had kittens, so he's going to be adopting 2 cats. He has already named them. Their names are Piper and Martini. And after they go out to get the supplies, Austen and Craig go to get food after. And Craig talks about how he's sort of enjoying just being kind of free and how he can just sort of kiss someone just in a carefree way. And Austen gets a little bit of FOMO. And Craig tells the camera that he thinks it's annoying because he wanted to be in a relationship, right? He would have married Paige if it was up to him. The only reason he's not in a relationship is because he was broken up with. So he's annoyed that Austen has FOMO about this because, he gets to be in a relationship and he's being wishy-washy about something that Craig wishes that he had. Now, these two just have so much built up animosity towards them, but we'll talk about that in a minute. So then we have this scene of Shep buying a new house. Rodrigo decides to help him go through his family's old stuff to fill up the house. And there's like all these paintings of Shep as a teenager that are like throughout the house. So like there's all this old stuff that they're going through with like his dad and stuff. And so there's these 2 paintings in particular. It looks like maybe Shep is 13 in one of them and 14 in another. They don't look like far apart. And he's holding a golf club against his chest in both of them. And it's sort of like a leafy background sort of thing. And the look in his eyes, though, it looks like he has hope. He has passion. It looks like he knows that there's going to be a lot for him in his life. But little did he know. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not really sure the point of this scene, but I guess it's just to show us how rich he is and how much stuff his family has, I guess. So Madison and her family are also moving into a new home, and it's a $3.9 million home, but totally worth it. She says that she is so proud of herself for even being approved for something like this after being called white trash, quite honestly, for many years. And listen, I have gone back and done the rewatch a few times, and she she was called white trash quite a bit. And there was a period of time she was a little trashy, I have to admit. Like, listen, we all have our trashy stage, right? There's nothing wrong with it. We grow, we evolve. Look at the woman she is now. She's married, 2 kids. I think she has a business, like she's got the pajama line or something like that, the LaCroix stuff. She's bought this beautiful new house. Like, she's the narrator of this show. She's doing fucking amazing. So very proud of her and think this is very well deserved. So Venita goes over to Whitner's house because he is having a literary figures themed birthday party. Okay. So everybody has to dress as a literary figure. And you guys know how much I love a Bravo themed party. Okay. They are always so ridiculous. But Venita goes to help him. And he tells Venita that he was actually with his ex for 3 years. And she actually walked out while they were engaged. He wanted to try couples therapy. He wanted to try all these things, and she just wasn't willing to do it. So here he is amongst the misfit boys, right? Amongst the man of Southern charm, fits in quite perfectly. So we're not going to go through everybody's costumes because I didn't know who lots of these people were, but Molly was dressed as Gandalf. Craig was dressed as Rufio from Hook. Now, I have a particular beef with Rufio from Hook. I do not remember Rufio from Hook, but I had this friend named Tammy, okay? And Tammy dated this guy named John. They dated for like a couple years, they broke up, and then they got back together like later on in life. And at some period in time, he decided to change his name to Rufio. This is because apparently he had a friend who died named John. And because when that person died, people had thought he had died. And so because of that, he thought he would differentiate himself by calling himself Rufio. He never legally changed his name to Rufio, and it is also stupid. So when my friend had dated him the first time, she had introduced him to all of her friends as John. But when they started dating the second time, she said to him, like, I'm not going to reintroduce you to all of my friends as Rufio because that is stupid, right? And he also hated me for some reason. He hated the fact that I was single. Like, he thought that if I wanted to hang out with Tammy, it was to like go meet guys, which was never the case. I literally just want to go to a movie with my friend, man. But because he didn't like me, I didn't like him either. I'm like, okay, well, I'm not going to give him that satisfaction. I'm not calling him Rufio either. But yeah, I do have a particular beef with that name. Madison comes as Shep, which is so funny because, hey, he's a literary figure, right? He's written a book. I did a whole episode on parts of his book that I read, right? So she's got like khaki pants, blue shirt, white jacket. She's got the hair. She is so fucking funny and I am obsessed. Like, I really love how she comes to every event. She, even despite the fact that she's pregnant, has a kid, has a family, whatever, she comes to every friend event. She is the life of the party. She makes so much fun at every situation. And I'm just obsessed with her. I think she's so fun. So then Craig and Austen start making these little digs at each other because of course they do. Austen says that Salley only likes Craig's shots in his hot tub. Craig says that Austen is jealous. Austen says he's not jealous. Then Craig's like, oh, you're all just holed up in your house with your cats. And Austen's like, yeah, well, you were doing that for like 5 years and now you're just coming out here having fun. And Craig says, to hate on fun is silly. And then he calls Austen bitter. And then he just starts like yelling at Austen saying that, you know, he's not happy and he's living a lie and he's jealous that Craig is single and that he told him that. And Austen is like, I never said that. I am not jealous of anything that you have going on, dude. And then they just continue to argue over who is more unhappy. But I am just so fascinated by these guys, to be quite honest. Like, I always have been. I think deep down they love each other, but I think on a surface level, they hate each other. I I don't know the root of it or where it really came from, but you can literally feel the animosity between these two. And it sort of reminds me of Tom Sandoval and Jax Taylor at the end of Vanderpump Rules, or like sort of like season 8, where like Jax was done with that guy. He hated Tom. And I wonder what would have happened if the show had continued with Jax still on it, right? Because Jax wasn't on the following season. I wonder whether Craig and Austen would legitimately still be friends if not for the show, because they're not doing the podcast together anymore. And it's not like they don't have things in common. They do. And they were genuine friends for a really long time. But I feel like the animosity between them is built up so much that I'm not even sure where it came from or whether it can even go away. And I wonder whether it just continues to build up because they continue to be on this show together. So that's just something I'm sort of thinking about. Like, I really genuinely wonder whether they would still be friends if they were no longer on this show together. Like I said, I do believe that they have this strong friendship, that they do have this strong love for each other deep down. I do believe that at its core, but I feel like their hatred for each other is a lot more than their than their love for each other. Okay, let's just talk a little bit about what happened on Watch What Happens Live. So Austen and Kiki apparently exchanged numbers at BravoCon, and he's super interested in her, which as he should be. She's super fucking hot. But I thought she said at the reunion, the Real Housewives of Miami reunion, that she had a boyfriend. But I could have made that up. I don't know. Madison says that she's Team Salley always. So I'm kind of curious about that, what that means in terms of Venita, right? And how she feels in terms of how the internet feels about how Venita's being treated in terms of Craig and in terms of Salley. So I'm curious how she's fully Team Salley in terms of her feelings for Venita. So I guess maybe that'll come out at the reunion. Maybe we'll get more there. I don't know. She also said that, of course, Charlie would rather go for someone like Craig than someone like Shep, because who wouldn't? Very much agree. Andy also asked about the Lindsay thing. So Lindsay Hubbard said at BravoCon that Austen was having some fun with some BravoCon fans, like basically implying that he slept with them. Austen shut that down, said that it wasn't true. Then they play this game of should Craig regret it? And the question is about Craig not defending Paige for the internet thinking that she cheated on him. And first Austen is like, I don't know, what is the right thing to do? What should he do? And then Andy sort of jumps in like, well, I told him what to do, or something like that. And then Austen says, well, maybe he thought it was true. So I think, unless I misunderstood, I think Austen was saying, well, maybe he thought that Paige did cheat on him, right? And which I do think was in his head. And maybe that was one of the reasons why he didn't want to denounce it. And then when Austen was asked about Craig's breakup video, where he posted that video sitting on the porch being like, hey guys, he was asked about that. And he's like, yeah, I do think it was strange. And I do think he should regret it. I don't know if it was, maybe I'm crazy. I don't think it was that strange, but maybe I'm just so used to these. I guess what would have been more normal would have been like a black screen, white writing, like everybody else, because then he wouldn't have had the opportunity to sort of like drift away with his words and for people to be able to like gain a sense from his expression and all of that kind of thing. If he was just more like black and white about it, literally black background, white writing, maybe it would have gone over better with people. And then Austen was asked about Shep at BravoCon and his outbursts that he had about how Craig and Paige, like basically that whole thing just like bothered him so much. He was like yelling about how Craig and Paige made so much money off of Bravo, and then she just went and like broke up with him on her podcast, and it's bullshit. And so this was really interesting. Austen thinks that the reason that it bothers him so much has to do with the fact that he feels that he didn't have to go through, that he had to go through so much more publicly with Taylor than Craig had to go through with Paige. So if what Austen is saying is true, that means that Shep isn't upset for his friend Craig whatsoever. He's not mad that Paige broke up with him on her podcast, which isn't even what happened. He seems mad then that Craig did not get attacked enough, is what it sounds like. It sounds like what he's saying is that at his reunion or whatever, or from the public, he was absolutely slammed about his breakup with Taylor. And according to what Austen is saying, Shep doesn't feel like Craig had to deal with even half of that. So that's absolutely ridiculous. That's absolutely insane. I mean, like, again, these three men are just so inherently jealous of each other for very weird things. And I don't understand their friendship genuinely, because I've never met three men who hate each other / love each other more. It's a weird friendship, the three of them. It really, really is. I don't understand it. Okay, let's move on to the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. So we start with Whitney, and she's sitting down with Justin, and she's upset about what happened with her business, basically. So I don't know anything about business. Sorry, that's my dog sneezing, you guys. I don't know anything about business, but my basic understanding of what happened here is that she wanted to bring Wild Rose Beauty into like big stores like Sephora and Target. And then Justin and maybe like the other business partners involved were like, no, we're going to go this MLM route. And now she's really mad at herself. She says that she asked him to be part of, this beauty brand for years, and he wasn't interested. And then he finally said yes. And that's why she agreed to how he wanted to do it, because she figured, she wanted him to be a part of it so bad. She was so excited for him to be a part of it. So she was willing to be a part of it, or if that's how he wanted to be a part of it, then she was willing to, compromise for that reason. And she thought that it wouldn't fail. So now she feels some resentment because of that, because it's hard for her to separate her resentment for him about the business and how she feels about him as her husband, right? So Justin agrees that he made a mistake and he takes accountability. And she just feels like the business was her everything, and now it's gone. And that's, totally understandable and stressful. And like, I think that's why they say don't work with family, right? Now, it's so different here. I mean, this is her husband of 15 years. They've worked together before. They've worked together successfully before. I think they've even owned businesses together before. So it would only make sense for Justin to be a part of it. Plus, she wanted him to be a part of it. But sometimes when you get family involved in business, it can lead to really shitty situations where the work doesn't get done correctly, or the work isn't the way you wanted it, or, whatever. And then you end up having like a contentious situation with your family member. And to avoid that, you should probably try to avoid having family involved in business at all. But again, I completely understand why she did here, and I probably would have done the same thing, right? So I don't know where they go from here. I mean, honestly, the whole thing about their sex life was kind of weird that we heard Bronwyn talking about, how they kind of sounds like they have like sort of an open marriage. Now she's really upset about him, about, the business thing. And she's made that her storyline this season. So obviously it's affected her in a very major way. I really think these two need couples therapy. I mean, I don't really see any other way around it, especially when it comes to something where she's holding on to this resentment for him. I don't know how she's going to deal with that if she doesn't get some sort of tools from therapy, if anything. So then we get this scene of Heather and Georgia decorating Annabelle's room because she's going away to school. And this is something that Heather does for all of her kids. She decorates with like the t-shirts, balloons, streamers, all this stuff for like the university that they're going to. And Heather tells the camera that she always felt like she was raising her kids by herself, and it was always such a huge responsibility. So she's looking forward to not having this huge responsibility all of the time and having some time to herself. Now, first of all, I think it was really bold and brave of her to say this on television, because some people could take this the wrong way. I'm not taking it the wrong way. I completely understand what she's saying. And if I were a parent, I'd feel the same way. But we also see so many parents among these shows really struggle in their empty nester life, right? Because they're like, I don't remember life without my kid and I don't know what to do without them. But we're seeing Heather react in a much different way. And I think that's because she didn't have the like luxury of having a partner who was helpful to her in parenting. She parented completely on her own. And so because she's felt like a single parent for literally like 20 years, and it's been a everyday job for the past 20 years, she feels like she wants and deserves some time to herself, which is so understandable and so warranted. But again, it's such a different dichotomy from how two different parents can think about the leaving of their kids, right? We saw this a few months back when Bronwyn was talking about this, and she said, she would do anything to keep Gwen home, to the point where she was even allowing Gwen's boyfriend to move in. And so you just see the very big difference between how some parents take the empty nester stage of life, right? Again, I really commend Heather for being honest and for saying, like, listen, I need time to myself. I've committed my entire life to my kids, and now I want some time for me. But I also understand other mothers who are like, I do not remember life before my kids. I do not know what I'm going to do without them. And I don't know who I am if I'm not a mom, right? I mean, you're always a mom, but I understand that mentality as well. So Bronwyn found out that there's a law against putting up pride flags in public areas. And so she's making pride flags with her mom to like hand them out or something like that. I didn't really get the point of the scene, but whatever. So Muzzy ends up telling Bronwyn that she's been a great mom to Gwen. And you can literally see Bronwyn's entire self-worth on her body being fulfilled by her mother, right? The way she smiles, the way her entire aura lights up. When her mother compliments her, it is a really big deal to Bronwyn. And she admits that. She admits that all the time. She's like, it's so important to me to know that you are proud of me and to know that you believe in me and what I've done, right? So that approval has always been really important to her. Now, Muzzy's an interesting character, which we know, right? I think she has her good parts and her bad parts. She definitely, she has her bad parts, right? Like, we've seen her talk some mad shit to her daughter's face, and we've seen her be a very closed person. But I think she does have the capacity to be an open person, because the fact that she's even sitting down doing this with Bronwyn, she says that she's doing it for Bronwyn to help her, which again just shows her openness as a mother. And then she also realizes that her parents had so many expectations on her, and that was the same parenting style that she ended up translating down to her children. But then she recognizes that Bronwyn does it differently. Like with Gwen, she's like, Gwen, you're amazing. Gwen, you're a star. And Bronwyn doesn't even make her feel bad about that. She's just like, we just did it differently. It's just different, right? And so it's really interesting that Muzzy can look at something like that and be like, oh, okay, that someone could parent differently than me and the person can turn out absolutely well. So I do think that there is room for Muzzy to learn new things and take on new things. And I don't hate the scenes with her, to be quite honest, because some of them are like jarring in terms of the things that she says. But when she makes Bronwyn feel heard and seen, and also when she has a moment of like revelation, when she opens up about something where you're like, oh my God, I never thought she would be open minded enough to even consider something like that. I'm just like, cool, cool, Muzzy. So the ladies are going to a spill the tea party, like spill the Boston tea, to celebrate Bronwyn getting her American citizenship. So everyone is going to dress in like colonial wear. And yeah, like I said, you guys, love myself a Bravo theme party. Just love it. So on the way, Brittany and Heather and Whitney are in the car together and they're talking about Meredith. And Brittany shares with them how she got together with Meredith the week before and Meredith apologized to her, not for what happened on the plane, but for the fact that Brittany was upset, basically. And, you know, she decides that that's good enough. She knows they're not going to be friends, but it's enough for her to move forward. Now, for Whitney, she's proud of Brittany for that, but she doesn't feel that that's enough for her because she feels like Meredith should be taking more accountability because she called everyone liars. So, like I said, everyone is dressed like they're in colonial times or something. And like this entire area that they're in is hilarious. They're in like a warehouse. It almost looks like a Home Depot. Do you guys have Home Depot in the United States? You know what I mean, right? Like a big like home show warehouse, right? Where half of it is like filled with like boxes and like I don't know, like random equipment. And then there's like this space segregated for them where there's like a ship and like a made up moat and like all the ladies and some food and stuff. Oh, and like a bunch of white wigs because, you know, we got to get our white wig on, right? So it's absolutely hilarious. So what Bronwyn wants everyone to do is to write down tea that they spilled about someone else and throw it in the harbor. And by what I mean by that is she's got a box. So you got to write on the box what the tea is, and then you throw it in the harbor. And by harbor, I mean the blue paper that's on the ground that's supposed to be water. So Angie goes first, and she admits that she thought that Lisa was lying about getting a horse because she mentioned that while they were on the yacht. And so she says that she talked about it to others. And, you know, she does make the very good point to the camera that Lisa's the kind of person that would, you know, have this stuff all over social media. Like if she had a horse, we would see the horse, right? But whatever, she throws it in the harbor. Brittany says that she didn't have any tea to spill on anyone, but she wants to know who spilled the tea about her flirting with Joao on the below deck ship because Jared apparently broke up with her over it. And everybody's like, oh my God, Jared. And so remember, she was having that 30-day break from Jared when they were on the yacht. And so she was flirting with some of the yachties. And Lisa says that she kissed Joao, but she's like, no, I didn't. I kissed him on the cheek. That's all that happened. Now, I don't understand how Jared broke up with her over this because they were broken up at the time anyway, so she was allowed to do whatever she wants. But basically, it comes down to Whitney because Whitney was the one who ended up calling Justin and saying that she was so proud of Brittany for sticking to her 30-day Justin fast and for flirting with other people and for just like flirting it up and having fun. So that gets figured out. Then Heather says that hers is about Todd making out with someone and farting. Because it has to be. We have to know what happened there. That is absolutely hilarious. But Bronwyn's like, no, I don't think it's funny. Throw it in the harbor. And I'm disappointed. Because you know what? Of course you want to throw a rumor about your husband in the garbage. Who wouldn't? But when it's about farting and making out, we know it's not true. So let's just find out what really happened. Because that could be really funny, in my opinion. So then Bronwyn's is for Whitney for upsetting her. And now, to be honest, I kind of forget about this situation, so I'm going to do my best to explain it with the information that I have. So there was a sit down between Whitney and Bronwyn, where I guess Whitney confessed something to Bronwyn, I just don't remember what, about Meredith. And then Bronwyn went and told Meredith that, right? So that is what Bronwyn is apologizing for. Whitney is saying, like, I confided in you as a friend. It was a private conversation. And Bronwyn's like, yeah, well, you shouldn't have talked shit about Meredith behind her back. See, here's where I disagree. If I go to someone and I say, can I talk to you about something in private? Can you promise to keep this conversation between us? And they say yes, then that person should not therefore go and repeat that to anyone else. In my opinion, it makes that person a liar. That same situation happened to me at work recently. Yes, the work I was recently fired from. So I had told someone at work that, you know, I was feeling stressed about the process and asked her if I could talk to her about it in confidence. And the person said, yes, you can talk to me about it in confidence. And what did she do right after our conversation? Went and told the manager everything that I said. So it made it look like I'm this super negative person who's complaining about this place, while everyone is actually doing that, quite frankly. I was the only one dumb enough to go tell someone who then went and told the manager. Now, that girl lied to me, right? Like, I asked her if she could keep this confidential, and she said, yes, I can. And then she didn't do that. She should have said to me, no, don't tell me that information because I cannot keep it confidential. Or she should have said, now that you've told me this, unfortunately, I have to go tell the manager. She did neither of those things. All she did was lie to my fucking face. So I'm sorry, Bronwyn, I don't really agree with you there. I really think that's considered a lie, in my opinion. Okay, where were we? Sorry, I kind of got wrapped up in that. And then Whitney's like, okay, well, I'm not gonna like go figure it out with Meredith myself. I'm not gonna like call a belligerent woman and like go work it out. And then Meredith calls Whitney a liar about saying that she was yelling on the plane and taunting Brittany for 6 hours. Then she just keeps calling her a liar over and over again. And Whitney, for her, she feels like being called a liar is triggering. So she thinks that Meredith is just like yelling out shit all the time, like liar. She's like, well, I'm just going to do the same thing. Pill popper, alcoholic. I'm just like, oh my God. So Meredith uses this moment to decide to bring out a gift for everyone. She says that the gift that she got for everyone is urine tests. She says that she has always been honest about whatever it is that she does, whether she's had a couple drinks here or a gummy there. So if someone has an accusation of substance abuse against her, they should take the test. Now, Whitney says this is a really sensitive subject in her household, and it feels very familiar because her father, he's either an alcoholic or he has substance abuse problems, right? So this is, yeah, it's triggering for her. And Meredith ends up deflecting the situation like she always does by being like, well, if I'm an alcoholic or if I have an issue, let's go back to every event that we've ever had over the past however many years and count all the drinks that I've had. And it's just like, Meredith, like, that's not the point, right? Like, that's not, it is deflecting what she's doing. And so is the urine bags, to be quite honest. Like, because, you know, about the yelling on the plane, by the way, she also ends up saying that, like, she didn't yell at Whitney on the plane. And Mary's like, yeah, I saw those things happen. But, like, you know, it just, Meredith feels like, it seems like the last 2 times she's been accused of something, she isn't really reactionary in the moment, which is odd, right? Like, if somebody accused me of having a substance abuse issue, I would be very reactionary. It seems like she comes to it later when she has more information, which, like Whitney says, is totally fine and normal. But when she comes back to it later, she comes back to it in a place where, yeah, she's trying to deflect it onto other people. Because as Whitney says, if we think you have a substance abuse problem, why would we take the urine test? How does that make any sense? That is a deflection, right? It literally is. And then the episode basically ends with the ladies issuing amendments to the Constitution, okay, like related to housewives. So husbands and kids are off limits, or let's be careful about things being said that we don't have documentation about. And then Meredith's is to stop the reactive abuse. And that's all she says. And then everyone has to Google what that is. Now, I do know what reactive abuse is, but it doesn't really apply to this situation. It's like, if someone hits you and you hit them back, that's reactive abuse, right? You're abusing someone back because they abused you first. But all Meredith does is really just describe her own actions in terms of the definition of reactive abuse, right? Like, she's going off the handle for no reason. She's like losing her mind and stuff. And so it just doesn't really make sense in terms of what she's saying. I'm not sure who she's saying is being abusive. I'm not sure what she's talking about. I'm not sure that she understands the definition of reactive abuse, but if she does, and we're going to get more about this later, I am very excited to hear about it. All right, I hope this episode ends up having sound. This is my second try, so let's all cross our fingers that this worked out. If you guys want more content, head over to patreon.com/the Bravo Investigator Podcast. And I love you, BBs. I will see you tomorrow.
Thank you for listening to the Bravo Investigator Podcast. For more content, head over to patreon.com/the Bravo Investigator Podcast. Follow me on Instagram, TikTok, and Threads @the Bravo Investigator. If you enjoyed the show, leave a 5-star review. Love you, BBs. See you next time.